Okay, so we've got a message here from a sister that I want to read so that we can see what's happening. Assalamu'alaikum. I am in my mid to late 30s and recently started my marriage search again. I've noticed that some men seem really focused on age and fertility, almost like there's a countdown clock hanging over me. I get that biology is real, but it feels like there's a lot of pressure and misinformation out there too. Can you talk about how age really affects fertility and how we can navigate these conversations without feeling dismissed or devalued? Yeah, I think that's a real problem in our communities, especially. What do you think about this? There's a lot of misconception on that topic, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions about fertility. I feel that in most communities, fertility is placed on the woman and her ability to conceive, and the man is taken out the picture. So, if you look at fertility, we can't deny what statistics say. Statistically, we do accept that with women, as we go into our 30s, in particular, as we reach the age of 35 and above, fertility does decline. It's the number of eggs and the quality of eggs, and that does decline with age. However, we also accept that every woman is different over the age of 35. We have to consider factors such as health and lifestyle as well. And so, while statistics might say that the quality of egg declines with age, if a woman is healthy, keeps herself in shape, there shouldn't be any problems in her conceiving and having a healthy child. And there's so many examples of that around us. One thing in our community is that men's fertility is not even looked into and no one talks about it, which should be looked into because we know that the health of a woman's pregnancy and the health of a child is also dependent on her partner's fertility. So men need to look at their health, their lifestyle, if they have medical history, their stress, all these factors need to be taken into account with men. So fertility should be, there is accountability of fertility should be placed on both men and women when in a relationship, and the conception that it's misconception that it's on women needs to be dismissed. And this topic needs to be discussed in detail, and men and women need to be aware of their fertility and their chances of conceiving.
Definitely. And subhanAllah, when you and I spoke about this the first time, you said something very interesting, which was that sometimes a couple will get married very early in their 20s and they will still struggle to have kids for 10 years, 15 years. Sometimes they will never have kids. And as Muslims, we need to understand that we believe in the qadr of Allah more than in the stats. So it's this thing of like, you also know a lot of couples who gotten married in their 30s and people who have had kids in their 40s as well, women who had healthy pregnancies in their 40s. So instead of looking at the negative stories, why don't we become more hopeful and put that on the side and trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a first thing, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree. And as Muslims, we have to look at it from an Islamic perspective and we have to rely on Allah. At the end of the day, we can take all the means on our part to try to become pregnant, but it is at the decree of Allah whether we have children or not. And what I've noticed in this day and age is that our certainty in Allah is not there. So if you look at in the past, we look at the perfect example is Prophet Zakaria alayhi salam and the dua he made for a child. He was old and his wife was barren, and Allah gave them a child, Prophet Yahya. Now, if we look at that example, why don't we look at that example and apply it to our situation? We are making dua to the same Rabb. We are. But our certainty isn't there. We don't believe that Allah can make these miracles happen. And so, while science says one thing, as Muslims, we have to remind ourselves that we have Allah. Science, doctors can say you're infertile, but Allah can make anything possible. And there's so many examples of miracles out there of couples who have been told they can't have children, but they left it to Allah and then they've managed to conceive and have children, alhamdulillah. And as you said, there's so many examples of young couples who get married, medically completely fine, and can't conceive. And then there are couples who get married later on in life and conceive naturally very easily and go on to have more than one child. And there are couples in their late 30s to their 40s. So we have to accept that this is divine decree, that we are not in control, that Allah is in control of everything. And so when this topic comes up, we have to bear in mind that, okay, at the end of the day, whether I have children or not, it is literally the decree of Allah. If He has written out for me, if it's good for me, He will give me children. If it's not good for me, He doesn't give it to me. and we don't understand. We have to accept that Allah knows best and that is His plan for us. But I think as Muslims, we have to remind ourselves of what Allah is capable of doing for us and who Allah is. And I feel that this is missing amongst Muslims when it comes to the topic of fertility.
Definitely. So having that tawakkul, having that trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, understanding that lifestyle matters a lot more than age when it comes to fertility. So things like maintaining a healthy weight, eating healthy, nutrient-rich food, managing stress, avoiding things like smoking and alcohol, obviously, which we should do as Muslims anyway. But those things are a lot more important. Now, when it comes to being on the search, because in this message, we can tell that the sister has probably had some negative encounters with brothers who were highly focused on that, which is not an issue in itself, but the issue can come up when the person you're talking to becomes a little bit insensitive and just summarizes you as being the object of conception of a child. And you're not seen as a human being with feelings, especially a woman in her 30s who doesn't have children and who dearly, dearly wants to have a family is already struggling with her own grief. She's already going through a lot of emotions and that struggle of having to face the reality that she doesn't have the life that she wanted to initially. So, how can we approach that as women? Having those conversations, being on the lookout for the men who might not have the emotional maturity to be the right spouse in the future, but also to even be in a conversation with us.
So, this is an important point that you've raised. And I think what men need to consider, if there's any men listening, is that when you bring up the topic of fertility for a woman, especially in her 30s, like this is a very sensitive issue. And that, like you said, she's thought about this. She's probably had sleepless nights over this. She's probably even cried about this and her chances and her dreams of having a child, especially as she gets older. We know it declines, and that fear is in the back of her head and in her heart. And so, the way this topic is brought up, unfortunately, a lot of brothers are very insensitive and quite ignorant, if I have to say that word, when it comes to fertility and women, how they approach this topic, that it does cause a lot of women to go through a lot of pain, a lot of heartache, and to question their self-worth. Is my worth tied down to my age and my ability to conceive? Or am I more than that? I'm a human being, I'm a person, I have a soul, I have more to offer as a wife, as a partner, but is he just seeing me as this ability to give him children? Is this going to be a conditional relationship? And what women need to look out for when they're talking or getting to know a man and this topic is brought up is, first of all, not to have fear about this topic. What I want women to do is not to approach this topic out of fear, but to have an open heart and mind when approaching this topic with the person they're getting to know, because you don't know his views on this topic. So if you're coming from a place of fear, you might attract a negative outcome. So it's best to come from a place of curiosity. First of all, ask him what his views are on children. And one question that might help asking a potential is, what does becoming a parent look like to him? Now, that question is very open. It doesn't mean that he is looking to have children naturally. Some people may want to foster, some people may want to adopt, some people might be open to that idea. So by asking such a question, it allows you to explore his mindset and what looking like a parent is for him, instead of asking him a question about when does he want to have children and how many he wants to have. So it's about how you ask the question to encourage him to have a more deeper thought process about what it looks like to become a father and how would he like to become a father. And by asking that question, you can get a good idea of what it looks like to him and if you're both aligned on that topic. Certain behaviors to look out for when it comes to this question of fertility are men that are very dismissive, who come with a black and white mindset and will make a comment such as, well, you're this age and the chances of you getting pregnant is going to be difficult. If a man has that mindset, you know that he's not the right person for you. He lacks emotional intelligence and he has limitations. The world is not black and white. Fertility is a journey. And so if he puts it all on you to conceive and doesn't take any accountability for his own health and for his own fertility, and doesn't even understand that this is, again, it's having tawakkul and relying on Allah and leaving it to Allah as to whether you do have children, but he puts the blame on you, then this is a man you walk away from. It's a clear red flag, and it's not someone you would want to be married to. If you marry him and you can't have children, chances are he'll walk away anyway. So that's something to look out for. And also, it does highlight a man's emotional intelligence. If A man, for example, you ask about the question of fertility, and he is open-minded and he is open to adopting or fostering, or even the possibility of IVF if you need to go down that route. That route is available for a reason. And if he's open to that and he takes accountability for his own fertility, and he sees you more than having his children, but he's looking forward to building a life with you, then that's someone to consider. He's open-minded. He's not putting the blame of fertility or the accountability of fertility all on you. He is open-minded. He understands that having children can include fostering, adopting, or even if IVF is required, he's open to that, and that's fine. And if he takes accountability for his own fertility, then that's someone who's responsible for his own health. That he's accountable, is responsible. And so that's a green flag.
This highlights the importance of having these tough conversations from the get-go. But I love what you said about swapping the fear with curiosity. And I think this can only happen if a woman is putting herself out there on the marriage search when she is herself mentally and emotionally stable and she's content with who she is and what she has in her life. Because I'm trying to picture a woman who's got a desperate energy and who just is just thinking like, I'm 35, I need to get married tomorrow, or literally I need to get married yesterday, because she's got the external pressure. She's also thinking about what she wants to create for herself in this life, and that becomes like an obsession. When you are looking for a spouse from that energy, you're ready to accept things that you would not accept if you had a healthy self-esteem, if you were thinking about your life as a life of abundance, if you were happy with your decree and you were thinking, Alhamdulillah, no matter what happens, I'm okay by myself as well. If Allah has decided that I was not going to get married, then I will work with it. If He decides that I'm not going to have children, then I will work with it. When you have that mindset, then only you can swap the fear for the curiosity, and you can approach talking to someone from that place of, I have nothing to lose. Because Alhamdulillah, whatever Allah has given me is okay. It's enough for me.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. One thing is, for women out there, do not start looking for anyone if you are coming from a desperate energy of I need to find someone, I need to get married. Then that means you're going to just marry anyone for the sakes of having a family. But you have to remind yourself this man is going to be the father of your child. So you have to choose your partner wisely, not just his health affecting your pregnancy and your child's health, but his qualities as a man. Is this a man you want to lead you and your children? Is this a man you want to be a father to your children? Does he have the qualities you're looking for? So that is more important than rushing and having children, because the last thing you want to do as a woman is get married, have a child, and realize that the man you're married to is not the man you see yourself with, and he doesn't have the qualities you want as a father. And then you end up walking out the relationship. And so it's about having that balance and being confident in yourself as a woman to say, okay, so I'm in my late 30s and I'm not married and don't have children. But that's okay. It's about being confident in yourself, being confident in the season you're in right now, that Allah has put you in your life. This is Allah's decree that you're single in your 30s with no children. This is Allah's decree for you, but it's a season. And so when you accept your reality, when you accept your situation and you build a life for yourself that's fulfilling, and you're confident in yourself, and you go out there and you look for a spouse, you're looking from a place of confidence. You're not looking from a place of neediness. So I would just marry him for the sake of it. So I'm chosen and I have my own family and I've kicked those boxes and I'm accepted in society. You're going to go from a place of confidence. You're going to know more about yourself, and you're going to know more about the man you're looking for, the qualities he has. Who do you see yourself marrying with? What kind of life do you see yourself living? The children you have, Allah gives you children. How do you want to raise them up? How is he as a person? Can you see him raising up your children in the way that you want him to raise them up? So these are the factors I think women need to look out for when getting to know someone, instead of letting the fear of age push them into marrying anyone and trying to have a child. It's better to wait and look for the right person than rush into marriage, because once you find the right person and you marry them, you're able to build the life that you want, and that's a beautiful life to build with the man that you choose to be with, and raise children in a healthy environment. And so I think what women should do is focus on building the life they want, being happy in themselves, emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually as well, building their relationship with Allah, learning who He is, relying upon Him. And from that, they will feel more confident about themselves and who they are and what they want in a husband, and then go out there and look for someone and take your time with looking for someone as well. And don't worry about fertility. And yes, if a woman is confident in herself, she'll be more curious about the man she's getting to know. She'll bring a positive energy, and that energy will help her attract the man that she wants and not a man that she doesn't want. Because if you're coming from a negative energy and you're desperate, you're going to attract someone you don't want to be with. And he will read that from her as well, the man that she doesn't want to be with. And he may take advantage of her as well. So it's best to be in a good place mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically before looking for a partner.
Definitely. Now, that being said, any woman, no matter how healthy she is and how emotionally stable she is, might get triggered when she has conversations with men who might say something a bit insensitive about her age and her fertility. Do you have any tips if this happened? Even if she sets her boundaries and she ends the conversation, what if she feels quite emotional and a little bit depleted and a little bit hopeless as well in terms of, am I going to find the right guy, the man who will understand that I am more than a baby machine?
Yeah, completely understandable. And it's natural to be triggered when a man makes an insensitive comment. You're human at the end of the day. You have feelings, you have dreams and wishes, and those feelings will come up. So, if a woman is triggered, the first thing I would suggest she does is to let those feelings come to surface and sit with them and process them and ask herself, where is that trigger coming from? Why am I feeling like this? And why do I feel so hurt by his comments? What's coming up for her? Is it the fear that she's not going to have children? Is it the fear that she's missed the boat of becoming a mom? Does she carry those beliefs internally? Because if she is triggered by a comment, perhaps she's subconsciously actually holding those beliefs that she may not be a mother because of her age. So it's about, is that true? Asking yourself that question, but is that true? Does this mean I'm not going to be a mother? But how do you know? You don't know. This is according to Allah's decree. You don't know unless you're married and trying for a baby. No one knows whether they can have a child unless they're married and trying for a baby. So that's something I would suggest she does. And it helps to talk to someone. So perhaps talking to a coach or a therapist, talking about your experience, talking about the conversation you had and how that make you feel, by sharing it with someone, perhaps someone who is an expert in this field, was a professional, can help you navigate through your emotions, can help you navigate through your feelings, and help you feel validated for, first of all, what you're feeling, but also to explore where this trigger is coming from and why you feel triggered every time this conversation comes up or someone makes a comment, and help you find ways of managing this better going forward if a similar conversation occurs. So you're not going through a downward spiral of negativity and depression because someone makes a insensitive comment about fertility, but you want to come from a place of, okay, come from a place of strength and from a place of hope that yes, he's made this comment, but it's a reflection of his lack of maturity and insensitivity, and it's not a reflection of me and who I am and my future. At the end of the day, I leave it to Allah, and if I desire children and it's for me, Allah will give it to me. If not, He will give me something better. And so it's about working on where those feelings are coming from, sitting with yourself, understanding where that's coming from, but also working with someone, talking to someone, having that conversation with someone to help you navigate and dig deeper to find out where that's coming from, and then working through it. And then helping you build that confidence. So going forward, when you're having a conversation about fertility, you've had the experience from the last conversation, and you learned from that. So going forward, you will learn how to handle that conversation with more confidence, and you'll be even more resilient and be able to bounce back and not be so upset or triggered by those insensitive comments.
Yeah, definitely. And I know this is the kind of work that you do. So if people want to check out your resources, because I know you've got a self-care checklist that they could use in that moment as well, that they could potentially find on your Instagram page, Thrive Like Her. I'll put everything in the description box, or you put everything in the description box below, inshallah. And I know you're planning on talking about more of these topics surrounding finding a spouse.
So, this is just the first episode of this podcast and discussion we've had. And there'll be more topics that are going to be discussing, especially women over the age of 30 who are looking to get married and all the struggles that women go through in the marriage search. So, there's so many topics we can talk about that I feel that are so important that will help women out there, help them be better equipped and navigate the marriage search from a place of confidence and having knowledge as well. So there will also be a website that I'm building at the moment called the Red Flag Bank, and that website is there to support you out there when it comes to navigating the marriage search. You can sign up now to be alerted when it's open. And hopefully, inshallah, the website will be open in due course and information will be there to assist you in your marriage search.
Sounds good. I can't wait to have a look at that. Inshallah, it's gonna have a list of all the red flags to look out for, but also the green flags, because that's something that we don't talk enough about. And I know how important you think it is to mention the good side of the search as well.
So I don't want to emphasize too much on red flags, and I think we do become a bit obsessed with looking for red flags, which is really important. We should, but it's also important to look for green flags because there are men who are walking green flags, and so they're not given enough credit. So it's good to have awareness of what a green flag is, and to be aware when you do come across a man who has green flags that this is someone you should definitely consider, and to be hopeful that there are men out there who have those green flags that we are looking for. Yeah, so hopefully the website will help many women out there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this conversation. I'm looking forward to the next ones.
Me too. Thank you very much. It'd be lovely to hear your comments and your experiences on this topic, and you can drop it in the comments below. And if you would like to suggest a topic that we can talk about at our next episode, it'd be lovely to hear from you as well.